Go ahead. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay. I would like to convene the September 29, 2023 meeting of the Niskuna Complete Streets Committee. Call the meeting to order, and I'll quickly do the roll call. I see that Jim Levy is here. Hello, Jim. I see Andrew Millspaw is joining us by Zoom. Hello, Andrew.
Hello.
Carla Dougal is here with us. Thank you, Carla. Ben O'Shea are you at your desk, Ben? Are you in the car or en route?
I'm in the car on the way home to the kids who are waiting for me.
Okay. Well, glad you're able to join us en route. Catherine did she send in a note? She wasn't going to be here?
I don't think I got anything from
Okay, so she may join us, yeah. And Tess Healy, she may catch up with us. I don't see her just yet. And our students, Avi Barr, Percy Davis, not here. Bill Chapman is here. Okay.
Avi Barr and Percy Davis were formally recognized by the town board as our student representatives on Tuesday. I did, and they are on my email list now, but the meeting came out really late last week.
Well, we'll try to work with those two folks to see if there's anything we can do to make it a little easier for them to walk from the high school over here to join us. So maybe if we have a half an hour later meeting time, that would work. Privilege of the floor. Anyone out in Zoom land that wants to speak at privilege of the floor, or no one here, I guess?
I didn't get anything.
Okay. I guess privilege of the floor is closed. We have our minutes for September the 28th in the packet. I gave them a read through, and I'm encouraged by some of the things that we're going to, hopefully some documents we're going to get, but I didn't see anything that was troubling. So did you see anything, Carla, that we need to adjust? Oh, well, we'll fix that.
Yeah, present and excused. Yeah, we'll just say Jim Levy was excused.
Thank you. Any other comments on the minutes from anyone for our August 28th meeting? And one correction from Carl Devil. Other than that, I move that we adopt the minutes from our August 28th meeting as approved by the committee. And show of hands. Jim Levy and Andrew.
Two eyes. Everybody.
Oh, eyes. Okay, yes. So Ben, Jim, Andrew, Carla, Bill Chapman, all are eyes on minutes.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Old business, we have the draft comp plan, and Catherine Kuzman and Carla, who is here, and I met with the comp plan committee, and Laura was there. So any summary that you want to offer, Carla, meeting with the comp plan committee? And we'll touch base with you next.
Here, but prepared for this. But I mean, she was introducing the concepts, like she laid out her introduction and approaching it through the concepts of safety, mobility and connectivity. So we talked about that last meeting as well. But it seemed like the people at the meeting that approach and Darcy there to mention approach.
Well, I think we did, well, I'll defer to you if you, well, I'll offer a quick comment. Okay. Thank you. We did say that, we felt like the transportation chapter in the current plan, it does have a section on pedestrians, but it's pretty heavy on cars and moving cars around in our town. And we felt like the new plan should have more of an emphasis on bicyclists and pedestrians and them being able to move around in the town. And we also felt that, well, a bit from the survey that we did in February of 2020, that a lot of the issues that came out of asking residents about their experience getting around in the town and recommendations they had for things they wanted to see were more safety things like control speeding and getting more side paths and crosswalks and better push button crosswalks and other things that would make it safer for people to move around the town walking or biking. And also Catherine's plan. I mean, we talked about safety, which is even our effort to get more walking to schools. We've noted many times that if we want to encourage parents to walk with their kids or other kids walk to school, we have to make sure we have the healthy infrastructure in place to do that. And then the other things, mobility was really kind of taking a look at bottlenecks, or how do we get around the town, east, west, north, south, which may be using the county roads and state roads, and also town roads where you can get north, south, east, west, but use quieter town roads to move around, which is, I think, largely reflected in the Complete Streets Bike and Pedestrian Mobility Plan we have here, which is kind of comes from the Safe Routes Plan. And then we talked a little bit about connectivity and accessibility. You know, accessibility, children, older adults, more of us may want to walk to get around. So having curb cuts and push button crosswalks and more sidewalks. And then also looking at bottlenecks that we have getting from one neighborhood to another. And we talked about the need to identify those and talk about how to fix them, which would be, say, missing segments on the bike path on Hillside Avenue, or the neighborhood of East Country Club, getting a walkway to get out to Row Road or Ruffin Road, or just other things. So something that
You also had a broader discussing it in the framework of like all the issues that you've laid out with your articles with like obesity and various
yeah, it's kind of the approach that I'd had with the you know, the school district, which were some things that we could add to the introduction section. That one, and I have a clip today. I'm probably going to make people nauseous with talking about climate change, but it's sincerely, it's a big thing. I mean, June, July were the hottest months on record. And, you know, we keep kicking the can down the road. We all as a society have got to start using fewer fossil fuels to get around, and walking and biking is a good thing to do that. And even in my clips to the school, we've noted we have an epidemic of not only adult obesity, but child obesity. And so being able to walk to school is a good thing, and older adults getting out walking. Also, you see the clips in the paper about depression, and a lot of people, even with the coronavirus, have been home, and getting out to walk, where you say hello to your neighbors, you say hello to the postman, you do those kind of things. And then, you know, the studies, like the clip I had with the school district about how even a brief walk gets children exposed to nature. I mean, they see the seasons, they get to talk to friends, but it improves test scores, it reduces depression, does a lot of good things for kids, being able to walk to school. And so we thought that would be, and certainly the climate change stuff would be things that we'd want to maybe add to our introduction that would justify why we as a community need to be more tuned in to safe walking and biking to get around the town.
Yeah.
And so we would do those things.
Yeah.
And then Carla kind of drops down to more specifics about, okay, here's our plan. What are weaknesses in our current plan, which is why we want to work on safety, accessibility, and mobility, because, you know, we could have some general discussion about, well, you know, we have connecting roads like Van Antwerp Road, Rosendale, but they don't have side pass on them.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we need to talk about those things.
Yeah. I think that my perception of the meeting, the feedback from the comprehensive plan was that they liked the direction that the Complete Streets committee wanted to take in the plan. They were supportive of the 3 divisions. They liked the intro. I think they're definitely interested in incorporating the climate smart stuff, in beefing up the safe routes to school and adding in the things that Bill was just talking about. So one of the things we discussed with them was, like Bill had said, taking out some of the old stuff that's very car centric and not really needed anymore, because some of it has been addressed already, and putting in a new table of like sort of priority connections, putting in some complete streets maps, all of that they definitely liked. Another thing that we noticed that we talked to them about was that most of the chapters in the comprehensive plan are neighborhood based, although the transportation chapter currently is kind of less mobility is is less neighborhood based. So some of the take homes that I got were each person at the comprehensive plan committee is assigned like neighborhoods, and so they're supposed to go home and just kind of like let us know if there's connections to different neighborhoods that they'd like to see for their neighborhood that they're in charge of. And then they really liked the direction that we were going, and they were very supportive of it. And so I think we were talking about maybe working on a draft to share with them in November or December. And so I think that, you know, the takeaways from that meeting were, I know that the comprehensive plan subcommittee of the Complete Streets committee wanted to make sure that they were going in a direction that the comprehensive plan people were very supportive of. And so I think the answer to that was 100% yes. They liked all of it that I could tell. Like one of them at the end of the meeting said that was the best meeting we'd had so far.
Wow.
They really liked it. And yeah, so I'd say that it was go forward, try it out this way. We're very supportive of it. And then one thing that they wanted to try and help with was maybe even breaking it out into neighborhoods better than it had been done in the past. So I thought that it went really well. I got a lot of good feedback from that. I can try and get my notes out.
And I think Dart said we'd be open to going back and forth with some drafts that we'll let you folks take a shot at a first draft of the chapter. We'll respond to that, and then, you know, we'll make some modifications to that so we get closer to something that they like and would feel comfortable putting in the first draft of the comp plan and having that be reviewed by planning board members, Conservation Advisory Council, town board, or whatever. And but I felt like they liked the approach that Carla proposed and thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, I didn't think there was, which I know we've had in the past, but the world evolves so much every 10 years. There's really no pushback on adding in sidewalks and accessibility connections and things like that. So we did have a little bit of a robust discussion about Route 7 that there was some differing opinions at the table, but I think still the majority really felt like it was worth putting Route 7 into the comprehensive plan as a goal to run traffic calming there and stuff. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, because I know you were copied on the letter from the DOT plan, engineer in response to the police chief and the supervisors, I guess, letter to them. I had made a public comment, so I got copied on the response also. Just, you know, they were offering to have continued meetings with the town on ideas for Route 7. So I guess on that topic, I would support the supervisor and the police chief, you know, following up on that and scheduling a meeting with the DOT. And if that finds a way to get into the comprehensive plan too, I would support that also.
Should definitely put in the comprehensive plan. I'm actually meeting with Jordan and the supervisor next week. I can't remember which day, and to reach out to the state to follow up on that letter. But I also have some more sort of information on that under new business, so I don't want to jump ahead too much for myself on that. But yeah, I'm glad you got a copy of that. I wasn't 100% sure if you and Carla actually did get the copy. So I'm glad for that. And yes, we are following up on it. I was originally going to put it in the packet, but because I'm having my follow-up meeting with Jordan and the supervisor next week, I decided I should follow up with them, and then I can put something like that in the schedule.
We mentioned in the minutes, the state, well, we'll get to it. You want to discuss this April 25? Is it a scope of a preliminary study that DOT is going to do? Or,
I'm not sure Jim has his hand raised.
Yeah, just a quick question, Laura. I mean, we can hear you guys for the most part, but it does break up once in a while. I was just curious. You said that the comp plan committee was going to be looking at the neighborhoods for connections within the neighborhoods. Is that right?
Yeah. So when we were talking, I think Dennis Brennan is one of the people on the comprehensive plan committee, and he lives like near Birchwood Elementary. I can't remember exactly which road he lives on. Yeah, and he was saying that his neighborhood is very isolated, and he would like to see connections from his neighborhood, you know, through somewhere. And so like we encouraged each person to be looking at their neighborhoods and saying, you know, where are the good connections? Like some of it is probably overlap with connections we've already identified. Like obviously whoever has Country Club Estates is probably going to identify, I would love to be connected to Ruffner Road. But I think it's good for them to be thinking about the connections between their neighborhoods as well.
Yeah, so I guess my question was, are they aware of, or should we show them the map that's already been created of connections, or do you just kind of want it to be bubbling up from, you know, what they find and see how that connects to the map that we have showing priority connections and things like that?
I did ask Clark Henry whether you can print the map here, our complete streets map. If that's the case, we should just give everyone on the comp plan committee a copy of the map.
Yeah, I think that a copy of the map is fine, but I also think letting them think about how they want their neighborhoods connected ahead of time is not a bad thing either, because.
But Jim's point is, I mean, if they looked at it, we have the one that's on 11 by 18.5, but if they had a bigger one, I mean, they'd be able to mark out their neighborhood and look at it and say, oh, the Complete Streets Committee's already got 5 of the things that I'm talking about. But I think it would be useful because as they look at the individual neighborhoods, more of them may be able to find a connection, kind of like we're talking East Country Club over to Rao or Ruffner. But people, if they are working on a neighborhood where they're either going to walk it or live there, you know, able to identify some missing connections that would be in addition to the big plan. And I think we did ask them. I think we volunteered that if you want, I mean, using this plan or whatever, well, they'd be able to see the specific recommendations either on our Excel spreadsheet or this map that we have for the area, you know, that they live in or the area they're working on. So, and, you know, just in Dennis's case, I think he's off of maybe Elisha Kill, Warner Drive, but you know, he does say that he's able to get across Troy Road. You have to be patient and wait till there's a break in the cars, but it is possible to walk across. Now, if you're a mom with two little kids on bikes, it's probably not very accessible. But I think his point about people south of Troy Road, I mean, it really is a barrier to how do you get those folks to be able to get over to access the mall, Hudson Bike Path, and other recreational things on the other side of town. And that's certainly something that we'd want to talk to the state about when we talk about Route 7.
Is there an electronic copy of that?
We can, I just made a note, we can email them that map.
Yeah.
It's-
good.
It was just a question because, you know, Laura, you and I have been doing this a long time. You can kind of go either way. You can give someone the map and they can kind of see if they find something that's missing, or you just kind of let it come up naturally from them and then compare it to the map to see, you know, did they identify the same things that have been identified previously? You know, but I think at some point the connection of those two should just come together to kind of see what, you know, what matches up with what we already have and what might be new that we haven't identified or haven't thought of because we don't live in that neighborhood necessarily. That's all. So I just wanted to make sure we make that connection at some point whenever you think it makes sense.
I desperately need this connection. So I feel like it's probably timely. I'll just send them the complete streets map and with a reminder that that's what they're looking at. That's what they're looking for.
You're gonna be so impressed with the map.
Yeah.
Is it map updated with things like?
Well, it does need some updating, which Jack Conley was going to do that, wasn't he, as one of his?
Did you give him a markup that he was gonna work on?
No, I didn't. Mark
Sorty gave us the GIS.
he gave us the GIS. So, but I'm not sure, Mark, I'd have to look at it on here or we could take a look to see, are there new streets or anything that's not on the copy that Mark gave us? In which case we need to put those on, I guess, but we're not that far behind.
No, if you need help updating that map, I have GIS. We can do that through a volunteer process if you need, depending on what needs to be done. Or so I'll just throw that out there.
And I have some paper copies that I got made at Also Post Plus. I have the list of who's on the comp plan committee. Okay.
What we need to do is if there are updates that we want to make, we can make them through GIS and then send out the electronic copies. I know some people like them, but generally speaking, yes.
Have them on the wall. I'm gonna get tattooed on my chest. It's like we're on complete streets because.
But I think that the electronic version is kind of number one, and then we can offer a paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When was it last updated?
Oh,
2 years ago.
yeah.
But my hope would be really the comp plan committee. I mean, as they're looking at neighborhoods or even just looking around, they've got it somewhere where they unroll it, they look at it and they say, oh yeah, I now see what's on the current and what I need to do, which they can just pencil it right on. So
It's their phone while they're out there.
yeah, that's true.
It's just, I agree. I like the paper sometimes, but they will all appreciate the electronic.
And we did ask, I think, if they wanted the comp plan, if they wanted Complete Streets Committee to offer a list of recommendations for their neighborhood. Now, maybe the map does that. If we just give them the map, they can see it. But our stuff that map doesn't have our recommended things. So we have an Excel spreadsheet where we've got safe routes to schools things, but we have other stuff that we'd be putting on our spreadsheet that come off the map, but we could share that with them to say.
Hopefully what would be a good thing
It's
is if we sync up the spreadsheet with the map. Because we're probably not making many recommendations that can't be mapped, right?
Well, I sort of felt like this map, the town board might actually put it out in a public domain so people biking through or whatever would be able to access and use it. That's why I wouldn't want our suggestions on it. But if we had another overlay, which, okay, Complete Streets, we've got 50 things that we think are good ideas, connections, and some of which we might get nuance from the comp plan committee. We'd want an overlay that's got, here's the suggestions, the suggested connections on it, so that if residents give us some, or the comp plan committee gives us some, or we just have a bike event or whatever, people look at the map and they offer suggestions.
I see what you're saying. I do think it's probably good to divide kind of the existing Complete Streets network with the proposed. But I think if you actually look at that map, it has some proposed connections on it.
Yes. Those are ones that kind of blessed by the committee, that we want the town board to say, we want to do these things, but
Well,
in reality, we've got
separating-
another 50
yeah.
that we do want
but
to
if
do.
you're separating them out, so here's the existing complete streets map, this is what you can use versus here's,
We should do that.
yeah.
And
Proposed might have like an idea like connecting Leisure Hill with Birchwood Lane with that subdivision or that subdivision of houses, that some project that we had and there was some kind of connection. And I mean, you might not think of doing something like that where you put a
by going the back way through it, in the same way, if you go through River Road Park, you can actually get over to.
Yeah,
to
the lower
back
drive
way.
connection's actually in though, that's it, yeah.
The asphalt pathway that doesn't get you over to Birchwood Elementary is not there because we
Correct.
need the gate. But it's a good point. In other words, this gentleman that was Art, with the Schenectady Gazette editorial, piece, yeah, Art Clayman. He asked a while back, gee, could we take your plan and hook it to the Schenectady bike path plan, which, you know, really it would be nice if we had a Schenectady County plan so that the city plan, Niskayuna, Glenville, Rotterdam, that people going across on the Erie Canal or the Mohawk-Hudson bike path, if they wanted to hop off for a sandwich or anything, you'd be able to do, and you'd have it on your phone. So that we'd ask the town board to put existing pathways that are out there that you can use on an electronic connection. And then for planning purposes and other stuff, we'd have another overlay that's got the proposed connections on it. So that's a goal for our committee for. the next
That's a good
year.
idea.
Yeah.
Hi Ben. So.
So
okay.
Ben, anything you want to say on our complete streets movement around the town? We're just talking about having one plan that's the existing one, and then working on another overlay that would have our proposed amendments to it to make it more connected and more usable.
No, it all sounds great to me. I'm thrilled to hear that all of the work you guys have been doing was so well received.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yes. Anyone, I know we're ready to move on, but Andrew, Ben, anyone else want to say anything about transportation chapter of the comp plan and our contributions? Good meeting on the 19th, as Laura summarized. Okay, next item, Wyoming Avenue. I wasn't there Tuesday night, but they did approve the stop
They
sign
approved
for
it.
Wyoming Avenue and Baker Avenue, which is a good thing. I think the police chief and Detective Munger, they took a look at the input from citizens that we shared with them and some recommendations that we had for the stop sign and maybe squaring up the intersection a little bit, trimming the shrubbery, getting the graffiti off the sign and some other things. And we did have a couple other recommendations. One was maybe an engineering firm to take a look at Lexington Parkway and Baker to see if that warrants a four-way stop, because Dean and Lexington has a stop on all corners. And then at Baker and Lex, also the cross traffic does not stop. The gold signs that you see on Knott Street, Baker, would consider putting those on that to make it a safer intersection. But I'm encouraged by this because I feel like we've recommended this and they've at least done one of those steps.
Yeah, it took a little while, but there was a couple people from Wyoming Ave at the meeting who were very thankful. And one thing they brought up, which I can't remember if I talked to you guys, was they were saying because it's a new stop sign, they were asking the town board to consider putting those little red LEDs that go around the stop sign that like flash occasionally. I don't know how that was received or not. Nobody commented on it, but that was something that they had mentioned. And then
Since right here, traffic steps in the city, which I'm going to share with the committee.
to do flash stop signs or flash speed limit signs.
Yeah, no, they're putting the red beacons that go around the stop signs on the second column. Get speed down there talking about including landscaping, strategic planting of trees, mobile electronic signs that display how fast the vehicle is traveling, solar powered flashing beacons at intersections. No, actually, I don't know, maybe there's, when you come up on the crosstown and you, on Route 7, there's a light that the red just blinks. I don't know if they're referring to that or if they're talking about having the red lights around the stop sign itself. But I mean, I guess that would be another item that would be typical of that, I guess, that you could do that. But
Yeah. In the city of Valdez, they had one or two stop signs like that. I don't know how hard it is for the town board to do that. That wasn't in our memo, but
No.
we did vote on a memo last meeting. I did send that to the town board and to the highway committee today. I was reminded of it when I was reading this, but that is out there. That was done. And I mean, I certainly have no objection to the lights on the sign. I just don't know how it works, but that was the one thing that came up at
I
the.
mean, I think does that mean every block is going to come in and say, we want illuminated stop signs so people are sure to see them, so the town
Well,
has to go down the road of doing that on every stop sign? So I mean,
I don't know, and I also kind of wonder because the places where I've seen them implemented before have not been single family home residential neighborhoods. Like anywhere I've ever seen a flashing red stop sign has been a pretty heavy duty intersection. So I don't know. I'm really not an expert on that, but I was just letting you guys know they're happy. The speed sign did pass. I did send out the memo, and the one thing that I did hear that we had never talked about was the flashing lights on the stop sign.
I think we need to study it. I don't think we're making recommendations.
No, I wouldn't.
Um,
I don't, because like, I don't know how people who, if it's right next to residences and if it's constantly flashing all night, like, I don't know.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't want to walk my dog there, you know,
Yeah,
all the time.
I'm not sure.
I think it's in some ways similar to, you get down to Flower Hill, we've got the light that it was just flashing all the time, which motorists just drove through because
No, it's still flashing all the time.
it's still, but
Yeah.
we need
We
to,
wanna fix it.
we need to ask the county about that to say that the sign is okay. It should just have a solid red when a bicyclist or pedestrian wants to get across. So when they push the button, the motorist coming down the road says, oh, the light is red. That means there's a pedestrian or bicyclist and I need to stop.
Don't think you can do that.
No?
I think it always has to be yellow. I don't know, Jim, do you know the answer to that? I don't think you can put a red light on the side of a road for pedestrians and a crosswalk.
A red blinking light? No,
Yeah, I don't think you can.
no, that would
But-
indicate a red
It
blinking
would
light
only
would
come
indicate-
on when the button gets pushed.
Don't think you
No?
can do that.
No, that
Okay.
type of thing for pedestrians would be a hawk signal, which is like essentially like a intersection signal, but for a crossing. But if you have a red light, it's the equivalent of a stop sign or a stoplight. So any flashing lights that would be a crossing, as far as I know, would all have to be yellow. The RFBs or those yellow lights like you see down on River Road. Those are really the only two applications I'm aware of.
So motorists on Rosendale Road out there should be prepared to stop at that blinking red light at the bottom of Flower Hill.
Yeah.
Is it blinking yellow?
Yeah, whenever it's blinking, yeah. And since it's blinking all the time, then yes. Whenever they go through it, yeah.
Motorists don't stop, they fly through, so.
Because they're used to seeing it blink all the time and there are only bicycles there, you know, from time to time, right? So that's, yeah. Just as an FYI, I'm sorry, you guys are
So pedestrians, you have to stop for pedestrians in the crosswalk, but you can't put a blinking red light on the side of the road. Like that's just not allowable road treatment. It's blinking yellow. It means caution. There is a pedestrian either approaching or in the crosswalk. If there is a pedestrian in the crosswalk, it's New York State law that you have to stop. Yes, I mean, it doesn't, if you hit somebody in a crosswalk, you are in big trouble. It doesn't matter what color the lights are blinking. Okay.
Yeah, a pedestrian actually has more protection legally if they get hit in a crosswalk than if they get hit in the road where there isn't a crosswalk, just because that is a dedicated place where cars are legally required to stop. at the
But
crosswalk.
my brother replied to my brother and I many times, you may have the right of way, but the other person may have a back truck.
Yeah,
In
my
which
parents used
case,
to say this.
you lose. So maybe your mom and I get a little money if we sue, but you're gonna
So
be
listen,
dead.
it's better to have
Yes.
a crosswalk with blinking lights than nothing at all. Cars are supposed to stop. They don't always. Like if you are in the crosswalk, you need to make eye contact with the cars that are stopping, and they need to be stopping in both lanes. Like you gotta have smartness when you're using a crosswalk. You don't have the ability to press the button and get the blinking yellow lights and be like, haha, I'm invincible. You're not gonna win against the Mack truck. All of that is true.
That's exactly right.
Anyway, we're gonna move on from Wyoming, but I think it was a win for the committee and a win for the folks in Wyoming Avenue. So
Just as a quick FYI, regular stop signs run like $50 to $100. Those blinking signs that just went online can be upwards of $1,000. So it's not an insurmountable amount, but it is a different element. Some of them require wiring if they're not solar. So it's a different step than I think just putting in a stop sign. It requires more consideration, thought, and obviously cost. Just to put it out there.
one
and
other
also,
thought I
you were
thought
just saying,
made it-
sorry, Bill.
to PD on the stop sign was, I mean, I did go out and sit and get pedestrian counts of pedestrians on Lex and Baker and pedestrians on Wyoming and Baker and Dorwalt. And there are a lot of people that walk out there, so that the yield is too weak of a regulation on the auto traffic for the volume of pedestrians that are on those streets. And so it's not just about speed of cars or the volume of cars, it's pedestrians that also use the intersection as well too, which is mentioned in the uniform traffic regulations. But that's something, I think it's a lever that we need to look at when we're asking the PD to do things as well too, the impact on pedestrians.
What were you gonna say, Ben?
Oh, I was just going to say, just to piggyback on what I think Carla was saying before about the single family residence neighborhood type thing for the blinking sign. I think the only examples I can think of locally that I've seen are like down by the Price Chopper building on that weird kind of industrial side corridor off of Knott Street to Seneca. And then maybe over, it's like an industrial thing other than major intersections. And I don't think it's really worth considering, honestly.
For residential. Yeah, I have no, I haven't ever studied it before. I just heard them ask that, but I know that even when we were considering putting the crosswalk in on Regent, because the homes on Knott are so close, we were trying to figure out how the blinking light would work there, because it's going to be flashing in their yards. Yeah. I know actually the one home that's adjacent to Flower Hill does not like the flashing lights. So.
Are they considering a permanently flashing intersection light?
On Regent? No, we were talking about a push button on Regent.
Yeah. I mean,
which isn't, yeah, shouldn't be as bad. Where's the stop signs are blinking? I don't think you can turn those off. I think you just blink all night. And it's a red light, which isn't as bad, but.
Okay, linkage study for Route 7.
Okay, so.
Laura put it in the packet for us.
Yeah.
And,
So I just wanted to let you guys know, we did get the letter back. I'm glad that Andrew and Carla were copied on it. I know Bill just underlined a question to me about what exactly the New York State DOT study was. No, they completed it. So they completed their study. It started in April, and then they sent us a letter that said their study was completed. They do not recommend lowering the speed limit, which I wasn't sure why they focused on that so much, but it must have been a suggestion they heard from the public. But yeah, they basically did a speed monitoring study on Route 7. That's what they did, which I don't think that was really what we were asking for. But as Andrew mentioned, there's a paragraph at the beginning of the letter which stated that they were willing to meet with us. So we're latching onto that.
is it a public study? I mean, is it shareable for the members of the Complete Streets Committee?
I don't know the answer to that. Do you have a question, Andrew?
Yeah. I guess, well, quick for Bill. Yeah. If it's a DOT study, you could foil it if they don't just give it to you. But for, the speed, I was a little surprised too at the response that it focused heavily on speed. Cause I know my comments that I submitted, they mentioned that there's high speed on the road, but the focus of my comments were on traffic calming and things like that and pedestrian crossing. So I was curious if you knew what the police chiefs and the supervisors' comments were.
Yeah, they were not speed related.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, they were traffic calming and safety related, especially concerned about the number of deaths. So yeah, I'm not sure why they focused on the speed. I was not impressed with the focus on the speed. But the thing that I'm honing in on is that they said they were willing to meet with us. So so I'm going to have a meeting with the supervisor and the chief of police next week to work on meeting with them. But then intermittently, I just happened to be in the same room with the head of DOT Region 1. And every time he's around, I always harass him about Route 7. And well, I feel like I'm being nice, but it might feel like harassment. I'm not really sure.
It's professional input, people who live next to them.
Anyway, I had a couple questions for him. I mentioned to him that one, we weren't really interested in a speed study on Route 7, but two, that we really wanted to get moving on a way to, look at changes to Route 7. And that whole meeting was about grants and getting projects implemented in your town. And one of the things that was made very clear at that meeting is that studies and engineering, pre-engineering, are very key to getting projects funded, both with DOT and with federal government. And we hear that over and over again, and we know that because we talk about that as the Complete Streets Committee. And I said, well, that's all very well and good, but every time I want to submit a study for Route 7, it's a state road. And so I really don't understand if we're allowed to submit studies for DOT or not. And he said, you absolutely can, and DOT will submit a letter of approval if we would like to submit a study on Route 7. So I promptly called CRTC, which was CDTC, and they are putting out a linkage study. Hopefully next week, the planning committee is voting on it, and I intend to vote yes. And I put the draft solicitation. It has been not been released. It's on agenda, but the draft solicitation for a linkage study. And I believe that Route 7 would fall in the linkage study as a corridor study and concept plan. The grant does require match, but it can be in kind, which I feel like could be a lot of Complete Streets time. And I do think that based on the conversations that I've had with the state and with my understanding of grants, is that if we are able to get a linkage study going for Route 7 and it is essentially completed, not only does that make it very easy for the state to roll it into its own budget because it is a state road, it also makes it eligible for the federal money. So I think that our next step to be moving forward with Route 7 and as concrete moving forward as we possibly can is a linkage study. I'm really excited about it. I think the timing is amazing. So I would like to work on that with you guys if anybody's willing to work on that. And then I know, Jim, I think you've actually done some of them before, haven't you? Do you have any comments on Route 7 being a linkage study?
I've done a couple, and I agree with everything you said. They are absolutely vital, I think, to getting money and attention on a corridor. It's the first step, but it's a big step, and it takes you a long way toward getting implementation, implemented. And I took a look at the, because I haven't seen the solicitation, but since you said that, I took a look at the project themes and project examples, and I think the Route 7 corridor study actually touches on, depending on how you want to write it, it could touch on almost every single one. It could touch on every single one of the project themes and examples, but I think we want to focus on some of them. But I think you could pick 4, 5, or 6 of the 12 of them. Say these are the primary focus areas of what we'd like to look at between safety and bike and pedestrian transit, infrastructure, and complete streets. And I mean, those alone cover a lot of area, and would focus on a lot of the stuff we've talked about. But I think, again, the primary focus would probably be safety. And there's a huge safety push right now, in terms of funding from the feds, the state. It's a ton of money coming out for safety. CRTC is actually going to do a big SS4A study, and there's just a lot of money out there. So definitely, if we can pull together the application, I think the town should absolutely go for it. No question.
Go ahead, Ben.
I just want to say I'd be happy to work on that with you.
Okay. That'd be awesome. I don't think we should be shy either. I mean, it's capped at $150,000. It's probably one of the most important things that we can do as a complete streets committee to try and get this moving. So, I mean, even if it's a lot of money, I think the town, in kind and with a little bit of cash could get to $10,000, and we could look at, a very extensive study. The thing that I liked about the linkage is, yeah, I agree with Jim. It can really touch on pretty much all those themes and examples, but we can hone it in a little bit. But it also says corridor studies and concept plan. So I would really like to do the corridor study, and then through a linkage study, like reach out to people who live on Route 7, who live near, anybody in the town of Niskuna, city of Schenectady, town of Colony. And because I think that the development of concept plans for treatments that come out of a corridor study would be really key.
Yep, you're absolutely going to want that. That's pretty typical in the linkage program, that you will get concepts designed. I think if we're looking at this study, I haven't really thought about it a whole lot, but a quick kind of, napkin estimate, I'd say there's no way we should go for anything less than $60,000 to $80,000 for this study, so that you can get a decent amount of competition for it, so that you can get engineering done on this, that your concept plans will have that engineering component to them, which you're going to need if you're going to do a safety analysis. You need the engineering side. The engineering gets expensive, but that would be my really quick, 2-cent estimate for budget.
Yeah, that's good. I was even thinking depending on how far we go.
At least 60 to 80, maybe more, depending on how much detail you want to get into and that kind of stuff, especially if we're looking toward implementation. As much detail as you can get in there, the better, but you don't want to be really high. I don't know what their total budget is for the year. So it's a balancing act, right? It's as much an art as a science to these applications. So we don't want to be super greedy and think that we're going to get everything and no one else is getting anything either. They usually do a couple a year.
The linkage study, I think that a couple people didn't get funded. So
I was confused at first. What does that mean by a linkage?
When I called them, because I have not done a linkage study before, just for the record, I thought it meant like linking, that we would have to get the town of Colony and the city of Schenectady and be like linking them together.
Yeah.
But no, she said actually the name linkage comes from linking transportation corridors with the adjacent land uses.
Okay. But then it could be a lot more than that, it sounds like.
Okay. Well, I actually still think it's worth reaching out to the town of Colony and to the city of Schenectady and seeing, if they'd even be willing to be, partners just for where the Route 7 is hitting them, because that does impact what's happening through our side. And CDTC likes it when you have partners.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think the majority of the study is really in Niskuna, because the town of Colony has so many lights right before you hit Niskuna that I don't think they have the same kind of, severe accident problems that we have.
And I had another question. You said they did a speed study, but then that's not the same as traffic calming. Like, how is traffic calming different than just speed?
Yeah, so I don't know if maybe the reason they did a speed study is that's kind of what they can do. But traffic calming, I think some of the things that we had even put in our letter were like exploring like medians and pedestrian elements, like road diet, like anything you can do to. So when DOT looks at speeds, they basically don't even look at what the speed limit of the road is, and they look at what people are naturally driving. And the speed limit comes from like the 80th percentile or 85th or something percentile. And that's actually where they say speed limits are. And so they're not looking at adjacent land uses. They're not looking at barriers to pedestrians. They're actually just looking at how cars are comfortably driving and what that median speed limit is. Speed is not
I
speed
thought
limit.
that it was not a problem.
I mean, they didn't even dive that far into it. They basically just said, we wouldn't recommend lowering the speed limit because the median speed limit on Route 7 is 55 miles an hour. If you lower the speed limit, it doesn't change what
Yeah.
people are going to drive.
Right.
That we knew that already. Like
Yeah.
that's not a shocker. That's known data to everybody sitting at the table.
They had the internal work on it.
Right.
According to DOT is 55.
We don't know. I am honestly just making it up. I don't have the letter in front of me. Do not write that down. Yeah. So,
One thing that was mentioned at the meeting, somebody said they didn't Boulevard wouldn't work well there with like a raised median the whole way. But I think with the pedestrian safety islands and placing them, like if you put them at an intersection, then it's gonna impede the ability to turn, and that would also impede like emergency vehicles and getting theirs quickly and stuff. But if you put it in the middle somewhere, and you had like a couple of those islands along the whole thing, like if you had like the Holocaust Memorial and you had a place there to cross because there's sort of a void there,
Right.
and then have like Bellevue Women's Hospital or Ellis or whatever, and have some kind of little, I don't know, just a little, I don't know, that just started.
yeah, I mean, and obviously being respectful of everybody's opinion, because even when you do these public outreaches, you're going to get the spectrum of opinions. But I think that if you were to talk and poll people, the majority of people, even in that room, really want to see changes to Route 7. And I don't think a median's out of the question, but that's probably why it's so good to get the linkage program, because that would mean that there's engineers actually looking at places along Route 7 with their professional knowledge, not just opinions.
Yeah.
And saying, yup, we have done road diets, we've done medians, we've done, changes in bike lane, whatever. This is how it could work, So that's why I think that'd be really good. You're never going to get 100% of the people on board with whatever you decide to do in Route 7, but.
I mean, this almost sounds to me like the state is saying, we don't see an issue here. Cars are going at this speed. But residents along there would say, well, it's wide open. They're not street trees. It looks like a highway. It's striped that way. The lanes are wide.
Yeah.
There are not very many crosswalks. And so once people get out of Colony, they're like, wow, it's open. I can go much faster here. And they do. And if we as a community are saying the speeds are too high on Route 7, I mean, you have to do something to address that, right? I mean, I don't think you just say, well, everybody just driving fast on Route 7, even though it's unsafe, and we're just going to stay with our bad habits. I'm not sure that's the best approach.
I think oops, is somebody else talking?
I was just gonna say that's what the linkage study will do. If we didn't get it through the initial studies and through DOT's traffic speed analysis, and I just went on the traffic data viewer. It's interesting, actually, the segment of 7 in Niskayuna does not have an average speed listed in the data table. But if you get over into Colony, the average speed is 46 miles an hour from Albany Shaker Road to Wade Road. That's not the segment we're talking about, but it's interesting they don't have a speed limit, and it was done in 2019. So I don't understand that, but that's what the linkage study will do. It combines engineering with planning and design to give you those elements that you're looking for. The DOT did a speed study to see what the speeds are, and they calculate that generally against whatever the average speeds are and the design speed and all that kind of stuff that the engineers do. But the planning study will look at the holistic approach of all of that, the land use, transportation, design, engineering, and planning, all kind of in one, depending on how you put it together and how much budget you have, obviously.
So there's 2 speed zones on Route 7, a 40 mile per hour zone and a 45. In the 40 mile per hour zone, the 85th percentile is 49 miles per hour. And in the 45 mile per hour zone, the 85th percentile is 54 miles per hour. That's high. But I think
But that's right, Laura. That's what they look at. They look at that 85th percentile, and if that's where the cars are, then they're saying, hey, we're right where we need to be generally, right?
I think just maybe have to accept, because we can't change the state government, is that that's what they do. They do speed analysis, and you're not going to get their engineers to do a linkage study for us for free. I think we have an MPO for a reason. These plans exist for a reason. And right now we have the state saying, we're behind you and we will support a corridor study. And so I think I personally would set that whole letter aside, except for the paragraph that says we're willing to meet with you. And then I want to work on the linkage study program.
Okay, well, I would like to offer a motion that to Complete Streets endorse the town planner with our support and whatever we need to do to contribute to it, to preparation of I guess is it right to refer to it? Is it a Complete Streets corridor study? Is that the right general category?
No, it's a linkage.
A linkage.
Corridor study.
Which one is linkage? Oh, okay. Okay, and concept plan. But doesn't that have to fall into one of these general categories in here?
Well, I mean, it falls into all of those categories.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's my motion. Looking for a second. Second from Tess Healy. All in favor of the town planner taking the steps to move forward on preparation of an application to state. What's the name of the agency? The Capital District.
What is Capital District Transportation Committee, but now it's the
Region Transportation Council. So
they changed their name.
I see all hands in favor, and so we're unanimous according. And I mean, is this public? Can I scan it and send it to Complete Streets Committee?
Just the only reason I didn't attach it to the packet, like I said, is because I was meeting with the supervisor and Jordan about it next week. But I can send it to the committee. Mm-hmm. I'm on it.
Okay. Could I foil the study, the April 25? Could I foil that with DOT? Just go over and file a foil to get that? Because Andrew got an answer to his questions, and did you get an answer to yours, or?
I did not send a formal letter.
But people who you sent in a comment?
I can't, honestly, I don't remember. I just filled out a form and I probably put traffic calming. That was
yeah,
okay.
That's why I think that's why Andrew and Carla were copied, because they submitted the form, and then the Jordan and Jamie sent a formal letter to the DOT with their concerns, and so I reached out and by email through contacts that I had, and they said, we're conducting this study, we'll get back to you. And so this is their response to all of us. Yeah.
Okay. So Andrew, do you have yours on paper, just your question and the comment? Or
Yeah, I mean, I have the email that came back
can you
from
send me
the,
an email
from
and
the
I'll
response.
I'll attach it to this and send that out. So whatever we have, I'll share it with the committee.
Okay. I don't know that it's that important to look backward if they didn't properly answer our questions. I'm not sure you're going to get a proper answer.
Well, but I mean, we're trying to, encourage the county to be players in this too. And I mean, if we've asked and we've kind of gotten unsatisfactory or incomplete answers back, I mean, that's why we need to do the linkage study. But we do want the county legislative folks or the county to be supportive of the linkage study. And, as Catherine has said, unless there are people that are concerned about accidents and deaths on Troy Road, the state's going to do a little study and say, we studied it and goodbye. And we don't want that. We need something more. And the linkage study is a step, but I mean, I regard this as unsatisfactory answers myself. So, and all I'm saying is I just want to share it with the committee so they can see what we're all talking about here. So.
I regard it as an unsatisfactory answer as well. But I wonder if we are approaching it in the wrong way. And when the communication that I've had with DOT, I think if you look at how other communities have implemented solutions to similar problems, it's been through a linkage study. So yeah. I just don't want to waste our effort.
Well, it's not wasting. I mean, I think people would even be interested in the 85th percentile. If you can't look at the Troy Road and see what that is, at least this is a fact the DOT has shared with us that you know, in the 45-mile-an-hour zone, the 85th percentile, cars are going 54 miles an hour. So that's a data point. You don't have to make that up if you're concerned about the speed on Troy roads.
I get the impression they did want to do something. They just wanted to partner with.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the first paragraph, and I'll share this with you guys, says we're willing to meet with you on traffic calming. The second paragraph says you can't reduce the speed limit. Here's why. Except I'm just not sure that anybody wanted.
But see, I'm not sure that statement is true. You can't reduce the speed limit. I mean, the whole idea to make the road safer, if you need to get speeds to come down, I mean, you put traffic calming things in like median, and you reduce the speed limit, you put some street trees, you do some more enforcement, you have more pedestrian crossways, all of which are designed to say it's not a highway, it's a residential street. And
Right,
it needs to
Maybe
be,
it makes you.
Yeah, so like what they're looking at is if you were just to go and say, we don't want a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit here anymore, we're gonna make it 40. That in itself is probably not going to change driver behavior, right? And that's what the second half of that letter states. Everyone here kind of knew that already. That wasn't news to anyone. But I
you can't write enough tickets to get people to
Right.
reduce their speed limit. That's not going to work. And Catherine, who worked for DOT, says no, there have to be some infrastructure modifications here. To reduce
Yeah,
the speed.
exactly. And I think we're all kind of on the same page with that. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I just want to say, just playing to the other side, the only way a speed limit's going to get changed in the town of Niskayuna is by an act of the state legislature.
Right. Well,
State legislature
that's
saying
where-
we're going
and
to
that's
reduce.
where, I mean, if the town supervisor is troubled that the speed limits are too high, and the county legislature is troubled that speed limits are too high, and our assembly person is concerned the speed limits are too high, and even if we do the Scorder study and we find out the speed limits are too high, then somebody has to act, and the accidents keep piling up. So.
You
Right.
for a second. I think the speed limit discussion is the wrong discussion. It was the wrong discussion in the letter, and it's not a discussion that we really need to follow because the speed limits are a symptom of a road that's designed to move cars very quickly without any type of complete street element except for the sidewalks, right? So the speed limit discussion, I don't think is relevant to what we're trying to accomplish on Route 7. And that's why I think that the linkage study is so important. And that's why I think meeting with them is so important, but focusing on the speed limits will change if we're able to implement the ideas that we want to see on Route 7. Yeah.
And that may be where DOT is coming from. We're willing to talk with you because we know there are other ways to go about it, even if it's not maybe what we see as the simplest, which would just be changing the numbers on the speed limit signs. Because the thing's built as a highway, right? I mean, what was it long before I moved to Niskayuna? I remember years ago, it was a 2-lane road, right? They moved the houses back and stuff. So it's built to be a highway between Troy and Schenectady. I mean, that's what it is, really.
But
And people are
yeah.
people treat it that way.
Yeah, and what it actually ended up accomplishing, which I don't think that state meant to do, but it happened, is it divides neighborhoods. And we maintain a residential neighborhood on that road. And what they set to accomplish is different than our residential neighborhoods on either side of that road. So, you know.
The vast majority of what we do is transportation planners.
When it was just a 2-lane road, it was very dangerous because people were going out into the other lane with oncoming traffic to get around other cars. So there were a lot of accidents on the road. So
Right.
state-
But a lot of what we're
Safer
doing is
road.
transportation. Sorry.
Oh,
I was
go
gonna say
ahead,
a lot of
Jim.
what we're doing is sorry, I was just gonna say a lot of what we're doing as transportation planners is fixing things that we did over the last 50 years and trying to improve them. A lot of what we did was, enhancements for cars over the last 50 to 100 years. We're trying to change that. And it's difficult. It's retrofits, it's changing things, it's tough. But I think the linkage study is absolutely the way to go to try the next
Okay.
step.
Let's move on. I think we're all in agreement on that one. Let's move on to discussion items. Crosswalk at St. Joseph's. I mean, it's there, it's working. I mean, we still need
to water and sewer about the sign. They are willing to give us the sign. Although after I asked them, I haven't heard from anybody that they were really struggling with the cars not stopping. I don't know if it just needed to be up for a little bit. And another thing that water and sewer said might be more useful, because those signs sometimes get negative comments from the public, is to put a stop for pedestrians in the crosswalk little sticker, like we have right out there between the library and town hall.
Mhm.
There's a little guy that's a stop for pedestrians in the crosswalk.
Yeah.
They actually thought that might be more useful, but they did say that if we need it, they were willing to put the sign out.
Does he go where does he sit, in the middle of the road or the side?
In the middle.
Okay,
Yeah.
he's very bold.
He is very bold. I think that it might be a little bit bold to do that on that intersection, but because the cars go pretty fast. And on the other hand, if you put something in the road there, people are, I think, really gonna take notice of the sidewalk. And it'll probably slow them down a little bit, although I'm a little worried that it'll get hit.
It'll totally get hit.
Yeah. Although
Eventually.
on this road. Yeah, I know. I don't know if this one's ever been hit or not, actually.
Well, this one's right. I feel like there's more respect happening here because we're right next to the town hall. But like up there,
I know. I feel like it would be good to create more respect right there, though. I don't know. What were you gonna say, Jim?
No, I agree. It'll be taken out in no time, but we could try.
Andrew,
Yeah.
Do you know, are they going to take the old yellow signs down that are like still in between the new signs that got put up, and they're like, bent over a little bit, and when you drive either way, they can't, they at some point they block like the flashing lights, only for a second, but are they going to take the old signs down, like the old bike signs?
I don't think that was in the contract, but I've noticed what you're talking about. I actually think there's a deer crossing sign that gets in the way as well. I can ask about that.
There's definitely a learning curve to things like that. I don't know if that's what the issue is, but it definitely takes a little time. I actually think the one out here in front of the co-op has been pretty well adhered to. I'm not out there all the time, but it seems like people are paying attention.
Something in there too, doesn't it? Does it?
sometimes.
Sometimes.
Okay, just quickly, that's a county road there that the county legislature did hold their September 12 meeting at the auditorium at Niskuna High School. And we had several folks from Complete Streets that went to speak. And Carla had written a letter on the importance of having a side path on Rosendale Road. And so we passed that along to our county legislators to let them know that we would be pursuing our interest in that. And there were 3 county legislators that I spoke to after the meeting that are open to looking at the possibility of a side path on Rosendale Road in Niskuna. And so our efforts to move that along. Catherine spoke asking the county if they also would be advocates for either a linkage study or an additional study on Route 7 due to the accidents that we've had. I made a request to the county to take a look again at the segment on Knott Street from Baker to Lexington that doesn't have a sidewalk. And I spoke to Gary Hughes, who's a majority leader, just to let him know that there were, it would have to be a split cost repair. There are 4 houses that go from Baker to Garner that are in Niskuna. Then you have the city line, and then there are 5 more houses in the city of Schenectady that go from Garner down to Lexington Parkway. And so I mean, I guess our grant money has been spent somewhere, but my position of privilege and floor was it's a county road. That segment, I mean, the Knott Street sidewalk's been in 20 years. We have this 2-block segment that hasn't been done. We need the connection because lots of people walk to Ellis and other people in the city walk back to the co-op, and it's a hazardous spot. It's at the top of the hill. And so Gary and our District 3 rep said they, wanted to take a look at that. And I mean, my thought was you hire one contractor to do it, and then the county and the city split the cost. And then when I've approached the mayor about it, he's been, if you get the county to do the 4 houses in the county, I'll find the money to do the 5 houses in the city. So
They did reach out to me about that once. I will follow up with them too, because I did send them the plan. So we did pay for the engineered plans. Again, we did bid it. We just didn't have enough money to construct it. But we have engineered plans and bid specs.
So does Paul Sheldon have that?
Yeah, I
He's the
did send
county
them to
director
Paul
for
Sheldon.
this.
Mhm. But I can resend them.
Yeah, please do. Matter of fact, please copy, or you can send it to me. I mean, I'm happy to copy Gary Hughes and our District 3 representatives and say, we have plans and they're here
And bid specs.
and bid specs. And so, yeah, I'll send it to him saying this work's already been done and it's a county road and it's kind of a hazard. It's not kind of, it is a hazard the way it is and it needs to be finished.
Yeah, I'll send that to you.
Okay, please. Then we did speak to Rory Fluman at the meeting, and we said that we'd sent the priority letter from Niskanen Complete Streets, and he says, "I'm happy to meet with you. Please contact me. I'm happy to sit down with Niskanen Complete Streets, and we do have some things that we certainly would want to talk about with him. I mean, we do have." Rosendale Road would be a topic and, the crosswalk, maybe not in Regent Street. Certainly we'd share our goals for 2023 and look at the priorities that we had in our letter for the county. And then also just long-term, the Rosendale Road and Van Antwerp are both county roads. They have a fairly narrow right of way, but we'd like to get side pass on those. And we have had residents, Mrs. Friedman and Mrs. Krakowski, both of which have said they'd like to go up and down on Van Antwerp Road between the traffic circle and Balltown Road, but there's no side path. And so that would be something we want to talk about. So
Yeah, so
basically,
okay.
Rory's open for a meeting and all we have to do is contact him.
Okay,
Um,
I'll try and do that.
People should take a ride on Plum and Van Antwerp, right? The sidewalk is underway, so it cheers the heart to see it. And I think it'll be done pretty soon. But anyway,
Yeah, and I don't know if I was able to update this, you guys about this, but the town is paying for the town side. We met with the school and the school has committed to do the school side as well. I don't know if this contractor will do it or if they'll hire their own. I sent them all the bid specs, because I think they have the ability to jump onto our bid. But it's kind of up to them, but they basically committed to doing it and they're gonna try very hard to do it this fall. So our sidewalk goes basically to the entrance of Hillside and then they're going to do a sidewalk from Hillside. Kind of, it bends sort of along the entrance to Hillside and then it has a crosswalk from Hillside to their existing sidewalk. So
Fantastic.
they were very happy that the town was doing its side. They're willing to do their side. And during those discussions, they again mentioned how much they appreciated us submitting the Climate Smart grant for sidewalk on Cornelius Ave. So they have been, and Birchwood and Van Antwerp, but they've been good partners in Complete Streets. It was a good meeting. They have been very responsive and helpful on that project. And
the superintendent did come up when the county thanked the school district for holding the meeting. After that, he did mention that they are working on some of the asphalt paths around the high school, which is what we recommended.
yeah, they
And so the school district is, if we're in the partnership business, we want to make sure that you're doing part of the partner. And so the fact that the town has done their half on Plum and we've applied for the Climate Smart communities, it's clear that we're putting some skin in the game by the town is spending some of its own money to do these things. And so when we speak to Roy Fluman, we'll be asking the county to do some things. And really it's just part of, if everybody's seeing that, oh, the state's doing a piece, the county's doing a piece, the town's doing a piece, and the school district is doing a piece, and they're all spending some of their money to do work on their property or their roads, then it's not like, well, we've gone 3 steps and everybody else is not doing nothing. We're doing some steps, but the town is willing to do some steps on its own, and I think that's helpful.
Yeah,
So
it's been a good meeting. They've been very supportive, and I've actually seen they've put the stone dust base down for the trail around at the high school. I noticed that.
And James Lynn did mention when he was here at the comp plan subcommittee that you need more bike racks at each of the schools.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that may be an easy fix, but they need them at Van Antwerp and also in high school and really the others. When you see them at Birchwood or even Craig, they look like they've been kind of neglected, weeds growing around them. Not many bikes with them. So, but anyway, I know we have to go soon. So just on the demonstration projects, we did talk a little bit about Orchard Park getting the sharrows painted, and then also walking the bike path. But we do want to ask the town if they would do the painted crosswalk on the two entrances to ShopRite and Comanche Trail and Orchard Park Drive, so that if there are roads that are next to the hike and bike path, you've got pedestrians going up there that, you know, when you get in front of ShopRite, it's not clear. You can be standing in the middle of the intersection that motorists are like, well, there's no crosswalk here. What are you doing standing in the middle of the road? I got to get out of here. And so there really should be crosswalks there. And so, I mean, the town did them with the circle in front of town hall. We really should ask the town to do those for, and it certainly would be part of this. And certainly the sharrows on Orchard Park would be a good thing. And so our training loop would be Knott Street East down to the Kelts property, use the push button crosswalk there, over to Blatnick Park, up the bike path, back down to St. Joseph's and River Road, use that crosswalk to come down Orchard Park Drive and back to Town Hall. And then we'd have, you know, our usual booths and that sort of thing, which we're going to do in the spring. Yes, Winnie Road, I mean, we're still making calls and Mrs. Cox is still interested, so.
Audrey's actually called me, I think, twice this week. I did speak to Mr. Martinez's son, who gave me the phone number for both Bernard and his wife, Lisa, I think. And I left a message with them today, so I'm working on it.
Good. That's very encouraging.
And so and then the priority letter update sounds like very least step number one to follow up on that would be if Roy said he's willing to have a meeting, like let's just schedule that. That's nice.
I think we should.
Yeah, we should.
Okay, and then for 2024, we need to think a little bit about, well, it's hard for folks at school to make it. And just before the meeting, I was talking about second Monday of the month, possibly 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. That would give Ben O'Shea a chance to get here and our students a chance to get here, and it would get us off of Friday so we don't jam Laura having to get the packets done for planning board, which it's next Monday, right? So we've already.
I stayed up late doing them at my house last night so that I could come to the meeting.
Yeah, so we'd like to do that. So, I mean, I think we won't make it part of our business to set a new time and date for 2024, but I just want people to think about second Monday of the month, 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. and see if that's a time that would work. And it's only that Monday. First and fourth Mondays don't work for Ben. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays at school. First and third Mondays don't work for Jim. And we have students that are hard to get out. We might even have to ask Rickard if he would let 2 students go half an hour early to come over. But we'd like to be able to meet there and have everybody be there.
They should be able, I mean, kids get out to do their instrument lessons for half an hour and different things like that.
Okay. I do have 2 clips that I gave. One is just Fast About the Future. It's about global warming, and I do feel like that's a real lever that we have, and reaching out to try to get more walking and biking. And then I had a clip that I pulled out of the Gazette. Schenectady looks at calming traffic, not speeds, where I mean they're wrestling with infrastructure things or doing other things like street trees, putting the signs up. Your speed is 25 miles an hour. Doing some of these things, which flashing beacons, restriping on roads. It all sounds like they're kind of more passive steps to help reduce, to be traffic calming things. And I do, would like to ask I may as the chief and Detective Munger to take a drive on, and Highway Superintendent on Nordella Drive to see our speed humps possibility to look at for Niskayuna, or are they definitely out? And, you know, I would just like everybody to see a road that's close by where they do appear to work. And we thought we'd have a rough time with this change the stop sign at Wyoming, but we knew that. And, you know, speed humps might work on some roads. So it's, yeah. But anyway, our neighbors in the city are, I think they're gonna look at some speed humps on some roads, but they're looking at some of these other kinds of things to do also. So, sure. Anyway, we have 2 minutes. Anything else that people would like to see on our agenda for our next meeting, or
lot of work to do. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
Not necessarily like an agenda item. I just thought I'd mention it. Since we were talking about ShopRite, I know it was in the context of maybe a demonstration project and showing off the new connections to the bike path. But the intersection at ShopRite Plaza, the post office and Starbucks is really dangerous. It's pretty much impossible to see. Like, it's right on the rise of the hill. And then on top of it, I just noticed the other day that there's a bus stop right there. And so you get people standing there, and so people are really looking for pedestrians crossing because they're standing there all the time. So I just figured I'd mention that. That's a high visibility candidate or what.
the entrance right by Starbucks, Vince pointed out, which I experienced too, is that there's no crosswalk. And so it's unclear who's kind of got the right of way, the pedestrians or the motorists. And so, did you say there was a stop?
No, there is a crosswalk. There's painted crossing. It's not marked very well. It's only on the road.
Okay, well, we could put that on the agenda to take a look and see if we could,
Yeah.
you know, make some recommendations about it or something.
Yeah, I was just thinking because where most of the apartments in this are, they're right there, and those people definitely walk to the store. I would if I was there.
I mean, if Jim Levy, I don't know, has any thoughts. I mean, if somebody sat in a chair at that intersection for a couple hours and recorded some things, I mean, what would we want to be on the lookout for? That I mean, I don't know. Do we need that data to ask the town to do a crosswalk, or ask the apartment or the shopping complex to, I don't know, put a sign or do anything? It's the exit intersection. Maybe Jim's already left.
No, he said.
At ShopRite?
I'm here. Are we talking, Ben, were you talking about the crosswalk over Knott Street that goes over to the
Correct.
apartments? Yeah, that goes kind of over by the post office entrance.
Yeah, there's like the back corner gate that goes
Right.
into the apartments there. And,
Yeah,
and
it's-
I think there's also a sewage drain there as well. So there's an odd shape to the grade.
It's
Yeah,
Very painted intersection, but it's,
so I think that would be, I think we should put that on our agenda, and like we could go out and look. There's something else I've noticed about that. I went back into ShopRite and looked at the old plans, but like the sort of the crosswalk that takes you from Bananford Village over to ShopRite, it lands on the sidewalk multi-use path, and then there's a sidewalk from ShopRite that goes almost all the way to the road, but it stops. And it was never built from sort of the top of the parking lot to ShopRite down that hill to the multi-use path. It is in the plans. I don't know why it was never built, but I mean, like, if we looked at it, we could probably make a couple recommendations that we could work with both the property owners and us and the town. Because that it's in our town center overlay district, and we might even be able, if we came up with a good plan just to make that more walkable, like, we might even be able to reach out to Metroplex and just say, hey, you know, we need like $5,000 to make these safety improvements. Like, for some reason, ShopRite never built this sidewalk, and, you know, we need these things. So, like, I think that's a great idea. We should put it as a discussion item, and maybe between now and next month, like.
yeah, we should have a little list of.
Yeah, we should
We'd
have a
say
little
this
list.
is.
Yeah, like, we need this sidewalk, we need this crosswalk, we need, you know, something.
just to shop right, you could look at the town center overlay district. I mean, if you had, I mean, I don't know, other spots like thing on the other side of the road. I mean, like Metroplex, if they're gonna do lighting and benches in front of the co-op plaza, if Metroplex is gonna help with that a little bit.
Yeah, maybe just come
I mean,
down.
these
a
are,
little
just come
and-
down the road, and these
Yeah.
are safety things.
I
Well,
think
yeah.
that's a, yeah,
The other one is actually the goat path between the high school and ShopRite down by Belltown Road. A lot of kids walk around the basin and then up through the trees, and there's no sidewalk there either. So if we're looking at ShopRite, I agree with Ben that crosswalk or not is a safety safety concern, but it's not great.
From Balltown Road up to the shopping store, right? The Mexican food place, there's a cow path there and no
Right.
sidewalk. And on
Right.
either side of the driveway, there's no sidewalk. So we should put that on the list too.
Well, I'm just thinking if we're looking at the ShopRite Plaza, it might be worth, we may not do it all at once, but let's kind of take a comprehensive look at this because that is a very heavily used goat path between the two. It's all high school kids. That's something else I think we should consider. And it ties into other things we've discussed as well. But let's kind of, at least as a group, we can take a comprehensive look at it and then decide kind of where we want to go. Because I think there are a couple things we can discuss related to that whole the whole town center area.
just then some recommendations. And we'll put them on as an agenda item next month.
Thank you, Ben. Well, I do want to get going. So unless there's another piece of business, I move that we adjourn the September 29 meeting. For a second. Second from Jim Levy. All in favor of adjournment for today? All in favor? Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you October 27 at 2:30 p.m. And then December, we have one meeting, I think it's December 10, and then in 2024. So anyway, have a good weekend.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.